everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I'm Kaya and today I'm going to be making a video about 5 ways that I became more Italian from living there for an entire year. So I've got 5 things that I've written down here that I prepared for today's video, but I guess I found to be really interesting and like huge changes in my life personally, because especially like for me as an Australian, I went in with a lot of, I guess, preconceived ideas and preconceived habits and routines that I wasn't really prepared for them to change so rapidly, but they did. And I really wanted to talk about them today because they're things that really changed my mentality in a lot of ways and changed my behavior and the way that I interact with people and everything like that. So I wanted to make a video about it because the Italian semester, like university semester, begins in September, I believe. And I've had a few people message me saying that they're really finding my Italian series videos helpful and insightful, because I know a lot of you guys will be moving to Milan at the end of this year. Well, I really hope you guys still can, given the situation and everything. So that's what I'm going to be talking about for today's video, and I'm just going to get into the first thing now. I became so much more spontaneous and I stopped trying to plan every aspect of my life, because as an Australian, and I know a lot of you will probably be able to relate to this mentality, is like I went into it and my life in Australia is very kind of on the go. I'm always busy, I'm always working or at uni or like interning, or I'm hanging out with friends or something like that. So my life is kind of I have to have some kind of structure and some, I guess, element of planning present in my life. And especially moving to Italy, the first few months anyway, I was surrounding myself with primarily English speakers, and half of my course was still the international curriculum. So that means that I was doing the Italian language course with a bunch of international students who all spoke English. That was like, I guess, the default language that people would resort to, because if it was not their first language, it was their second language or their third language or whatever, because a lot of European students learn English from very early years of school, because it's obviously an international language, etc. So everyone defaulted to English, and so I wasn't really forced to change that much really at all. So I guess I was just like still stuck in that mentality of being like, I'm with Australians, I'm speaking English, etc. And that kind of translated into other areas of my life that I had brought with me from Australia. So like planning everything out and doing everything in a way that I guess was familiar to me. So the girls that I was living with 3 Australian girls for the first 2 or 3 months, I believe. 2 or 3 months, and they were only there for 4 months, whereas I was there for an entire year. So they went there with like a detailed plan of what they wanted to do each weekend. So they would want to go away, whether that was to like another place in Italy or another country. Each weekend they had it planned out for the entire trip that they were there. And so naturally, living with them, I wanted to go along with them, and I was in that mentality of like, well, I want to plan everything, and I want to do this. And I had that kind of mentality of I don't have enough time to do everything that I want to do, because I came in with a list of places I wanted to go, things that I wanted to see, and things I wanted to do. And it wasn't until a few months in that I realized, like, I'm here for an entire year. I don't have to plan out every aspect of my life. And it's not the end of the world if I don't have a structure, if I don't have it like a strict idea of like what I'm gonna do and when I'm gonna do it. Some of the best trips that I had in Italy came from unexpected situations, unexpected circumstances with people that, I hadn't even known for that long. But one of the best holidays that I went on in Italy was in August, where we went to Puglia with my boyfriend, my Italian boyfriend, and a bunch of his friends from the south. We organized this last minute thing to Puglia in August, which is like their holiday period. So they have the entire August off. So we booked this house, this Airbnb, for 13 of us. And it was this amazing house in Puglia, and it was all this last minute trip. And I was like, well, why am I making plans when I know that things are gonna change day to day? It just doesn't seem to make sense, especially for a year like that where you're just trying to like act on your your intuition and just acting on what you feel in the moment. And that was something that I really learned to let go of, was that mentality of like having to plan everything and not being spontaneous, and when I was going to do everything and how I was going to do it and things like that. So that's something that I really tried to let go of, and I guess that I definitely adopted those Italian habits of just like letting go and being spontaneous. The second thing that I noticed myself starting to do was saying certain Italian things, like words or phrases or something that they would say kind of habitually all the time. And a lot of the time the Italians wouldn't even realize they were doing this. But for example, like if we don't know something in English, for example, would be like, or like, I don't know, or kind of shrug and make that weird noise that doesn't really mean anything, but it's like a habitual thing that a lot of people say. In Italian, they have, I guess, an equivalent to that, where they'll be like, boo, and I found that to be so cute, and it was something that I started to say myself, because what do they say, like you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with or something like that. So I guess it just started to become a part of my vocabulary as much as it was a part of theirs. And you bring it up with them, and a lot of the time they won't even realize that they're doing it. Like they'll know what it is, obviously, because all of them say it, and it's like an Italian thing for, I don't know, I guess. I would catch myself mid-sentence where I'd be like, boo, and I'd be like, oh my god, this isn't something that I did before I came to Italy. So weird and so random, but that's something that I noticed in myself, a change in myself. The next thing I'm going to talk about is I started to double kiss everyone, and I guess this was more it was a behavior that I noticed within myself when I went to Italy, because obviously it's like their customs, it's their cultures, it's the way that they interact with each other. They're very affectionate and things like that. But I guess I noticed it more when I came back to Australia, and I was kind of catching up with everyone again, seeing everyone again for the first time in like 12 months time. And I was, you know, going in for the kiss or the hug or whatever, but then I would go in for a second kiss and they would be like, oh, okay, like they'd kind of just go with it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so still stuck in that that routine of doing the double kiss, because I've been doing it for an entire year. That was something that I more noticed with myself when I came back to Australia, so I guess it was kind of more of a reverse cultural shock thing. So the next thing, and I didn't think this was going to change, honestly, because especially when it comes to coffee, I'm such a snob. I think this is like an Australian thing probably, is that we're so used to like our coffee a specific way, and you know, like I would go out and my normal coffee order would be like a double shot cappuccino, a double shot latte or something like that. And I went into Italy with like, I guess that same mentality of not planning to change my coffee order, not planning to change anything, or be exposed or be, I guess, open to anything new in that department. But I really surprised myself, because I guess in Italy, they do have, like Australia, they have a distinct coffee culture, but it's completely different. So I guess in Australia, the coffee that we know is like, it's like the smooth and creamy and milky coffee that everyone knows and loves. In Italy, it's not very common for them to drink their coffee with milk, unless they're having breakfast and they're having like a cappuccino in the morning or something. But other than that, the way that they drink their coffee is mostly just like as the espresso. In the morning, they'll go to the bar and they'll have their espresso with their cornetto or their croissant. And what I really loved about Italian coffee and the way that they drink their coffee was that there's so much of a focus on the actual coffee beans, and you actually taste the real flavor of the coffee itself, rather than it being like drowned out by all this milk or whatever. So I really had a newfound appreciation of like the actual taste of coffee, and I really noticed the places that I went that they really had such a vast knowledge of the different like types of coffee beans. And I guess that was one thing that I noticed really, I guess within myself, my normal routine, was that I started drinking espressos and actually loving it. Whereas in Australia, I would kind of just drink them if I was like really tired. I'd have like a double espresso shot or something. Or, you know, it wouldn't really be part of my normal routine, but it's something that I've really, I guess, adopted when I came back to Australia, is drinking my coffee like that and really loving it actually. So the last thing that I'm going to talk about, and this is a really funny one, and this is one that I guess I wasn't really expecting. In Italy, they will not wear like flip-flops or thongs, as we would call them in Australia, out in the city in like normal life. So literally the only place that they would wear like thongs or sandals is if they're actually going to the beach or they're actually by a pool. It's more seen as a shoe that you just wear to cover your feet or to keep your feet from burning, or while you're going to the beach or something like that, to protect your feet, I guess. But in Australia, for example, you'll see people in the summertime just like walking around in thongs or sandals or something like that. And I guess even though Italians wear sandals, you'll never see them in summertime walking around Milan or like one of the main cities in thongs, in flip-flops. I think the main reason, from what I guess figured out from asking around and things like that, was because they don't like the thought of their feet being really, really close to the dirty ground. And they're very, I guess, not paranoid, that's not the right word, but for lack of a better word, paranoid about like dirt and germs and like maintaining their own personal hygiene to the T. So when it comes to wearing thongs or things where your feet are exposed out in the dirty city, for example, they're quite like particular about that kind of thing. And if you go out in the summertime and you're wearing thongs around Milan city, for example, you might get some strange looks. And they'll definitely know that you are a tourist, or you're not originally from Italy. So I found that to be so interesting, and that's something that I definitely changed. I started wearing like enclosed shoes during summer, like my sneakers, when I was walking around Milan and things like that. And it is 100% more practical because you can't really walk around the city efficiently or like without getting sore feet if you're wearing thongs all day. So that's where I'm going to end this video today, guys. I hope it was insightful and you found it entertaining and enjoyable. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very soon in my next video.